You're watching PowerNation. Today on Carcass, we show you how to measure for a drive shaft and install some custom wheels and tires.
And we also do some exterior modifications to our Tahoe, so stick around. Hey everybody, welcome to Carcass. We have our Tahoe in the shop and we already have our ATK crate engine installed, along with a brake upgrade from PowerStop, which we did on a set of GMT 800 spindles because we did want the bigger, better brakes, and we wanted to lower this thing a little bit to give it a nice stance. We also have a few more things to check off the list today.
And to get moving forward with that list, what we're going to do is mount up a set of custom wheels and tires. We're going to do some exterior mods around the truck to make it look a little bit better. But first things first is we have to measure for a custom drive shaft because we went from 4-wheel drive down to 2-wheel drive. Now, since we ditched the 4-wheel drive transmission and transfer case, the stock drive shaft for our Tahoe will not work. We're actually going to need a longer one. And believe it or not, this 2-door Tahoe does not share the same chassis as the short bed regular cab pickups. These are actually a little bit shorter. So I'm going to get this thing up in the air. We'll grab a tape measure and take some measurements. Now, when ordering a custom drive shaft, you're going to have to know some very specific information. You're going to have to know the spline count of your output shaft. You're going to have to know the U-joint size of your pinion yoke, but most importantly, you're going to have to know the length or the measurement for your drive shaft. And to do that, we're going to use a very common method of measuring. We're going to put the tape on the end of the output shaft, and then we're going to measure to the face of the pinion yoke. And that's about 53 3/8. So let's go over what type of drive shafts you can run in your vehicles. Now, you can run something like a carbon fiber drive shaft. That's what we ran in our road course Camaro because we had high horsepower and we were looking for the weight savings. You can run something like an aluminum drive shaft. These are most commonly found in your later model production vehicles. And you could also run your standard steel drive shafts. Now, something to convey to your drive shaft builder is your horsepower range and the physical size of these because they are underneath your car and these do travel up and down, so you need to pay attention to how big they are. And for vehicles that have a lot of suspension movement, you can run a drive shaft like this. This has 2 U-joints on one side. This is a double cardan drive shaft, something that's more commonly found in your Jeeps and your lifted trucks. Now, once you figure out what you need, you can jump onto Summit Racing's website, plug in some numbers, and order what you want from there. Now, there's one more thing that we do need to be concerned with, and that's the U-joint size on your pinion yoke that's on your rear axle. So let's go over how you figure out what U-joint you need to use.
To figure out what U-joint you need for your new drive shaft is a pretty straightforward process, and if you have the stock drive shaft available like we do for our Tahoe, it's as easy as measuring the diameter of the cap and then measuring the width of the U-joint itself and cross-referencing these measurements with a table to then figure out what U-joint we have. If you don't have the drive shaft available, but you know what rear end you're gonna run, a common one is a 4/9", then you can measure the width across the machine surfaces of the yoke and then measure the diameter of the saddle portion itself. There are a few different styles of U-joints to fit many different applications, and there are even combination U-joints that will take you from a smaller size to a bigger size if necessary. The way that U-joints are retained are by way of snap rings. First style looks something like this, and over here on this yoke you can see that there's a groove machined into it and the rings hold the U-joint on the outside. The other style looks more like a C-shape, which will fit into a groove machined into the cap. And then there's a machine surface on the interior side of the yoke to hold everything together. And you might even find a U-joint that accepts both styles of clips. Just depends on what you're looking for. The most common sizes of U-joints are 1310, 1330, and for high horsepower applications, 1350 seems to be the most common. One other thing to consider here is that some U-joints have accommodations for grease zerks, but people tend to stay away from these for performance applications because they are thought to be weaker and can fail prematurely. So for our Tahoe, I know that we need a 1330 U-joint, but a couple minutes with your caliper and you'll be well on your way to getting your drive shaft made.
Coming up, we prep our big 20-inch wheels so we can get some paint on them and get them on the Tahoe.
Welcome back, everybody. We're just getting these wheels prepped for the newest addition to the look of our Tahoe.
These are 20 by 9-inch solid steel wheels. We got these from Summit Racing. Jimmy and I really like the look of this solid steel wheel. We ordered these in the bare metal finish, so we got to get them prepped, cleaned up a little bit, get some primer on them, then we'll move on to paint. So what we're trying to accomplish here is we've got to clean up all the areas where the two pieces were welded together. It's got a bunch of dirt and debris and dust in here from the welding process. Also, on the outside where they did weld the two pieces together, there's a bunch of welding slag where the penetration came through. So we got to get rid of that as well. What we're going to be doing here is using some Scotch-Brite to kind of just clean everything up. We'll hit it with some wax and grease remover or some type of a cleaner, get some good etches in here, and then we'll shoot some primer. Now that we're over here, we're going to use a little bit of acetone and try to clean off the wheels, even from just doing that little bit of sanding, I guess, with the scuff pads there. The wheels come out pretty dirty, so we're going to want to get all of that off before we move any further. So what I'm doing now is spraying some self-etch primer. This is really going to allow everything to kind of just bite from here on out for the paint and stuff. So we'll get this down on the inside, the outside, and the in-between, and we'll move on to paint.
All right, now that our primer has had some time to dry, we're gonna hit it with some wheel paint. The color is graphite. We've got our wheels painted and we had them baking in the paint booth to make sure that they were fully cured. So now it's time to put some tires on it. We've got General G-Max AS07s in a 275/40/20. The AS07 is an all-season tire that will handle any type of road conditions that our Tahoe will see. These tires feature best-in-class wet and dry braking and snow traction. Our truck will be a comfortable cruiser, and these tires deliver low road noise with long-lasting tread wear. Rain or shine, the General G-Max AS07 will keep the Tahoe attached to the pavement with a comfortable ride.
Coming up, we show you how to refresh your faded out fender flares. Hey guys, welcome back. Now with all the work that we've done underneath the hood and to the suspension on our two-door Tahoe, we want to spruce up the exterior, and we're going to do a couple easy things to kind of make this truck look new and fresh. We're going to be starting with these fender flares here. Now these are made out of an ABS plastic, and the UV likes to really pound on these and make them look kind of crummy and make the truck look kind of crummy. And you can see somebody has already spray painted this one, but in the back, this is most commonly what they look like. They're kind of sun faded and bleached out, and they just make the truck look old and tired. So what we're gonna do is go over an easy way to kind of refresh this stuff, and we're actually gonna do it right here on the truck. We're not even gonna take them off. The very first step, and probably the most important step to doing all of this, is we are gonna wash this with some warm soapy water. All right, we hit this thing with some compressed air just to kind of speed up the process. Next step here is to mask off the area, or at least around the area that we're gonna be working, because we're gonna go into sanding and doing a little bit of body work. All right, so we've got the paper and the tape down here. One thing to note, I did run a second line of tape right here on the edge. That way, as we're sanding, just keeps us from kind of getting in and touching off of the paint. We definitely don't want to put any scratches up there. So to get started here, I've got 2 pieces of 180 grit. These are like the sticky pads, just back to back. Go ahead and kind of scuff all of this down, and we'll get ready for some body work. All right, so let's talk about what we're doing. From the sunlight hitting this ABS plastic, it's put a bunch of pinholes or some divots in this face and this face over here. So what we're going to do is mix up a little bit of glaze, which is like a body filler, but a lot thinner. And we're just gonna kind of glaze over the top of these spots, get kind of everything smoothed out, and then we'll move on to primer. So like I said, what we're gonna be using to fill in all those little imperfections is some glazing putty or metal glaze. This is quite a bit thinner than your regular auto body shop fillers, or your mud as they call it. We'll just spread this out here on the mixing pad, get a little bit of hardener in it, go back over to the truck, get some on there. Really want to work this in very, very good. Make sure that hardener gets into all of this. You're doing something like this, it helps to push onto the paddle, and then if you need to come back and kind of straighten something out, don't start with a perfectly clean paddle. Put a little bit of filler on there. It just kind of helps you smooth everything out as you pull it. What I'm sanding with now is 180, or 180 grit, I should say, on kind of a soft block. Probably gonna end up sanding most of this off of here. Basically, we're just looking to fill in all of those little pinholes. Another big plus to the glazing putty, that actually sands really nice. Really easy, you don't have to put a lot of effort into it. When you guys are doing body work like this, if you're gonna try to blend your mud work into the rest of the panel, what you're going for or looking for a good blend is this variation in color. So you can kind of see that it's getting lighter in here, or technically darker. It's because we're sanding through the mud and getting into the black of the fender flare. So if you were to come and prime over the top of that, you wouldn't even be able to see these blend lines. So that's something that we're kind of going for. Again, was going to just sand this until most of it's off. You can see we're starting to get there already. You can see the black come through here, so we're close. All right, so what we used to straighten this panel out was 180 grit sandpaper. The idea here is to get this into a high build primer, or a 2K primer. So we don't want that to have to do a lot of work filling in sand scratches. Even though 180 isn't all that deep, we're gonna take it one step further. We'll just kind of hit this with some 220 and get rid of those scratches so the primer doesn't have to work so hard. Okay, so we have it sanded with 220. I went ahead and used compressed air and blew it all off, and I masked it off as well. Now we're gonna be spraying some 2K high build primer. We're just mainly gonna focus over the areas that have the mud or the bodywork. Get some of this on here, a couple of coats, and we'll build this up. Okay, so the primer has had plenty enough time to dry, so we're gonna go ahead and hit it with some 400. Now we're not trying to straighten anything out at this point. We're just trying to smooth it out so we can get some color on it. And then last step is to just tack it off, get rid of all of the dust. All right, and that's pretty much it. So we've got this cleaned. We did a little bit of body work, got it through primer. Now it's sanded smooth. So the next step from here is to shoot it with some color. We're gonna be using a satin black to just kind of match the valance here and the rest of the trim on the truck. So we'll do a couple light coats of this. When you're painting with a rattle can or a spray gun, you want your first coat to be light. Then you can follow that up with 1 or 2 more coats to achieve the coverage you're looking for. Well, let's see what this looks like. It'll turn out pretty good. And for a little bit of time and not a lot of money, you really can refresh your stock fender flares on your OBS, make them look pretty good. So I got a little bit of work to do yet. Got 3 more to do. So grab some sandpaper and get at those 2.
Coming up, we freshen up the front end of our Tahoe. Next thing on the list for us here is to replace some front end parts. Something that's really common with these OBS trucks is on the grills, the chrome starts to flake off, and of course the headlight lenses and everything start to fade pretty bad. So we have a full new front end setup that we got from Summit Racing, and it's gonna give us some nice contrast against our freshly painted fender flares. Now, as you can see, these lenses are just hideous. Nice yellow faded. Even the mounting plate for these is broken. So the great thing about these new headlights is you can buy them with the full setup, the plastic backing plate and everything with it. So we can get these on, start reassembling the front end. First thing on the grill here is this lower trim piece that kind of sits between the grill and the bumper. This thing just slides in here and snaps into place.
That looks pretty good. But
Yeah, man.
I'm way more excited for these.
Yeah, me too.
Let's get
See
these
the whole
things
truck
done
come
here.
together. I'll grab one of the other wheels. Well, there you go, man. Lower Tahoe.
Dude, I like the stance of it.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a rake on it, 20-inch wheels. What more do you want?
I think everything kind of worked out.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
You know, we've got a lot of work to do underneath the hood yet. We've still got like the fuel system to take care of and the electrical, but it's probably something we won't get to today. So thank you guys for watching. We will catch you next time.